choose to live in the light. So why is it that you loathe us who teeter on the edge of nothing?
All right, welcome back, everybody. We have Nerd Squared here, and they're going to be doing an 80% run of Scorn. So I'll go ahead and hand it over to them.
Thank you, Goth, for handing it over to me. Hello, I'm Nerd. Uh, Fitting with the theme of this marathon being indie horror, I run a lot of indie horror, and I'll be doing a couple of games in that vein tonight. I'll be starting off with Scorn. This is a survival horror slash shooter slash puzzle game. It's a weird amalgamation of a bunch of different genres, but mainly survival horror and shooter. It was made by Ebb Software in 2014 and or started development in 2014 by Ebb Software, a small indie developer, I believe, in Serbia. And I will go ahead and get going because we have a pretty lengthy intro cutscene to watch. So yeah, it was made by Ebb Software. First teased in 2014, I think. Finally came out in 2022 after a whole bunch of delays, and it was definitely worth it, I think. Yeah, we'll get intro to the universe we're jumping into here. Basically, this game is very heavily inspired by the works of the artist H.R. Geiger. As you'll see throughout the game, there's a lot of biomechanical type landmarks and stuff in the environment. This is also a any percent speedrun. Typically, I run this game. I run a category called DSJ mod, where we use a mod that gives the player double the normal movement speed for both running and walking, and it also gives you the ability to jump. Normally, this game is a bit of a running simulator. And have both of those things not only makes you go a lot faster, obviously, but it also allows you to do a lot more sequence breaking. And we'll see some of that in this category as well. But basically, with this category, we are not using the DSJ mod or any sort of modding to skip things, although we will skip things. So it's a lot more of a playing it straight kind of run in a way. And I'll get into the nitty gritty of it as we get going. And time will start in a few seconds here. It'll be when I gain movement and start moving. And I'll let you know when that is. Alright, and go. Okay. Alright, so like I said, this game is a mix of survival horror and a shooter. The way I like to describe this game, by and large, is it's basically what would happen is it basically what would happen if you took the survival horror elements of games like Amnesia: The Dark Descent or Silent Hill, where you're like in these creepy environments with barely any backstory as to why you're there, and you're solving puzzles in the meantime. But as we'll see later on, once we get to Act 2, which is a little ways from now, but we'll get there, you'll get to see combat with a bunch of different guns. We'll see most of them. There's like one that we'll be skipping, but it's not super useful for us, so we go ahead and avoid that. And I mentioned just now how this game involves a lot of puzzles. This is a prime example of that. We'll put our arm in this machine. This will give us the H.R. Geiger equivalent of a key card. We have this bracelet that we can use to interact with many different puzzles throughout the game. This kind of a tutorial showing us, hey, this is how puzzles work. Because we get that bracelet from that machine. We interact with this mechanism here, which we're going to use to open this gate. If you time it right, you can let go of the gate a little early before you go to the other side. I like to play it safe though, so I'll just let go all the way to the right before I let go. Here we go. So I let go of the gate, and I have to get right here before the gate closes. There we go. You can let go a little earlier, but I have to be a little safer with that. So yeah, the whole goal of this act, and really of this game, is that we're trying to get to this tower-like area. And to get there, we have to first get past this big door that's blocking the exit. But to get out of there, or to get through that door, to actually activate the door, we have to get a second person to put on a bracelet like our main character just did. And there's all these pods on the wall that I'll be fishing with this hook like it's a crane game. get this pod right here. Fun little light on the left. And activate the mechanism to grab it, because again, this is much like a claw machine. It turns out that the pod breaks apart, and we have to go fish a different one. And if you ever played this game casually, this is likely the point in the game where you got stuck right away. Because the game, it does not give you any real hints as to what to do, or even a story, for that matter. Because the whole, like, one of the big selling points of this game, sort of, is, and even Ebb Software, the developers themselves have said this, the point behind this game, or the idea behind it, that is meant to kind of draw people in, is you're kind of thrown into the world with no context. Kind of like you're playing a boomer shooter or something. Just kind of have to explore the environment and figure out what to do. But I've done so many runs of the other categories, like the SJ mod, that I have this puzzle, and all the puzzles really, down the pad. I also have notes off to my left that tell me the solutions, so that'll help a lot too. So I just have to move these pods in a certain direction, in a certain order, so I can get this double stack that's pointing up to the other side there where that light is. Because this one has a working pod that has a person inside. Just gotta move these few out of the way. Gotta be kind of careful with your cursor movements here, because if you accidentally let go of interact at the wrong time, you can move the cursor a bit more than you intend to, and you have to move the cursor back to course correct, and it takes a bit of time. I'm used to the physics of it, as weird as that might sound, for just moving a cursor, but there are some, like, car-like physics to it or something. So we got through it. Got our last man on Earth here, out of this pod. Because what's actually happening in this world, sort of, is there's some biomechanical stuff going on that caused, I guess, an extinction level event in this world. And so we're trying to basically get to a higher plane of existence. That's essentially what our main character is trying to do. And again, it's like I said, where the game throws you into it with no context. The game really does not give you a story, or barely any story throughout the whole game. So you kind of have to make up a story in your mind and make that what you think of it. Because like it's very much open to interpretation, for sure. In fact, even the characters, like that character we just fished out of the pod, don't even get names, not even the enemies. And so, us in the speedrunning community for Scorn have come up with great names for these characters. This character in particular will be fishing out of this pod. We've decided to name Steve. Steve is that other person I was referring to that'll help us get the second bracelet. We just have to go into this mechanism here to direct the rail that will be moving him along on a cart. Just like that. Just like that bottom left rail. And there's two different ways it can deal with Steve, because since he's in a pod, we need to remove him out of it. Or take him out of it, remove him, so that we can actually bring him along with us. And there's a couple different ways it can break Steve out of the pod. You can either use a buzzsaw to break open the pod, therefore saving Steve, and then you wait for him to slowly waddle over to that contraption that we used earlier to get the bracelet, and he'll get a bracelet and he'll help you open the door. But the path that's faster for speedruns is we take him on this alternate path off to the side and try to scoop him out of the pod with literally a scooping mechanism, just like a scooper you would use to take out ice cream. That's literally what it looks like. You use an ice cream scooper-like thing to try to get him out of the pod, but you botch it, he dies, and we use an arm to get the bracelet instead. And since I mentioned that, and since we just saw that play out, it is worth noting, like I said at the start, this is a game very much inspired by H.R. Geiger's biomechanical art style. And so there's going to be a lot of grotesque moments of body horror. I know this is a marathon specifically around these types of games, so that kind of thing is to be expected. But Scorn goes a little far with it, especially in the vanilla run, with some things we'll be seeing later on, particularly in Act 5, in basically the back half of the game. So I know most of you watching are probably fine with that, but just letting you know about that ahead of time. So if you're squeamish at all, you might want to sit this run out, sorry to say. For those that do want to watch, I'll let you know when those happen. Yeah, we fished Steve over to the scooping mechanism. Like I said, it literally looks like an ice cream scooper. So we'll put Steve in this pod, which takes a while, or in this machine, I mean. Which takes a while, because Scorn is a very artsy game, as you've been seeing so far. So the game really likes to do these long and drawn-out animations to show you how pretty the game looks. But yeah. Sorry, my parents are off to the side. But yeah, so we scooped Steve out of the pod. We failed. Rip. And we'll go ahead and grab his arm. It's actually kind of funny for the DSJ mod run. Because with the DSJ mod run, since you're skipping so much, a lot of the geometry for the... Or not a lot of the geometry, but a lot of the textures for the rooms are unloaded. So for that room, the textures are unloaded if you're doing the skips in DSJ mod. And so when Steve's corpse gets tossed into the pit there after your failed attempt at scooping him, he just falls into an abyss of nothingness and looks really weird. So use Steve's arm to hold open this first mechanism, then once themselves, we're going to activate the second mechanism. Over here. This will actually open the door. It's actually kind of sad if you do decide to save Steve and you bring him over to the door. As you're leaving this area, when you take this elevator in the distance to go up to Act 1-2, he actually walks up to the door, and then once he gets to the top, he just stays there. So it's actually kind of sad. You just leave Steve in purgatory. But yeah, that's Act 1-1 done. Pretty simple level. We just had to do a few quick puzzles there. And Act 1 Part 2 is more of the same. By the way, this game takes place over 5 acts, with the first 3 acts having 2 parts. So we're in Part 2 of Act 1 now, after getting off this elevator. And the premise behind Act 1 Part 2, or Act 1-2, like I said, our first main character here, I specify first main character for reasons I'll explain later, but the goal of our first main character here, since we're in an apocalyptic existence in this world, is to try to get to a higher plane of existence. And our goal is to do that by inserting what I can only call X-Ax, or what I decided to call X-Ax anyway, into this machine. That's in the middle of the area. So I'll be going left here and then right to get both of those X-Ax, and then there's a bit of a puzzle to get the X-Ax in place. Couldn't beat this game because the puzzles are too confusing. Yeah. I mean, for me, it wasn't the puzzles, because the puzzles weren't that bad once I knew the solutions. But what frustrated me most was the combat, because like the combat when you don't know what you're doing is so cumbersome and difficult to get. Like especially if you're going in completely blind. It's just so frustrating when you're doing this blinds that I just could not. I was just dying so often, and the thought of having to reface all those enemies again when I already struggle with the combat, it broke me. I literally could not beat the game. I literally resorted to using cheats to beat the game, which I'm not ashamed to admit. But hey, I know a lot more about the game through speedrunning now, so it's not nearly as hard. Don't get me wrong, there's some hard bits later, but it's a lot easier overall. Because like when you have a set route, it's a lot better. Yeah, even the weapons fight back, yeah. Alright, so we'll go to that central room to activate the machine, where we insert the egg sacs. I have to hit these enemies real quick. I don't know what those are called, so I'll just won't call them any particular name. But you can see they spray out a puff of smoke, and if that smoke hits you, it does 3 bars of health. And for reference, they have a maximum of 7 bars. Which is a lot in theory, but the game is so brutal with its checkpoints and health. Granted, it's a bit better in more recent patches, but the game is so strict with its health, or so brutal with its health, especially with the mechanic we'll be seeing later in Act 2. You really have to conserve it. In fact, a core mechanic behind, saving time in the run and, routing it is precisely routing out which health pickups you get. Because you'll see later when we get to a health station to get extra health, the animation for the game or the mechanism in the machine, putting more health in your inventory, that takes a lot of time. Which I'll point out again later when it actually pops up at the end of Act 2-2. So we want to avoid taking health stations as much as we can. So it's the second egg sac. Once we put one of these egg sacs in, we have to go over and interact with these 3 pedestals that appear around the machine. When you see me interact with any object like these pedestals, you'll notice that I'm kind of approaching it at an angle. It's much like in some Resident Evil games, like Resident Evil 7. Whenever you interact with something to initiate an animation, like turning on the mechanism in this pedestal, Scorn guy, which is what I like to call the main character. A Scorn guy wants to lock into place so that the animation can actually start. So the optimal thing to do in runs is to try to get as close to the thing you want to interact with, in this case the pedestals, as you can, and then start the animation by interacting with it. Because the more time you spend having Scorn guy get dragged over to the thing you want to interact with, that wastes time. The more time you waste. So yeah, we tried to use the machine after activating that 3rd pedestal, or that 3rd mechanism. But something broke in the machine, and even the building we're in is just breaking apart completely. Keep this area in the back of your mind, by the way, because it's going to appear granted looking a little different, in a later act. Actually, in the second part of the next act. So yeah, well, essentially what happened there is our main character died. Because the stuff that got poured on us is basically a vat of acid. And, yeah. So, unfortunately, the main character passed away, or at least our first main character. Don't worry, our first main character will appear later. Now we're appearing as the second main character. I guess I'll go ahead and, since I've called the first main character Scorn guy, I'll go ahead and call this guy Jason Scorn. Another character nickname in the community. So wake up as the second character. We're stuck in this pod an indeterminate amount of time in the future after our main character died. It's not explicitly said in the game, because the game is very vague about the story. But from some theories I've read about, it's implied to be around several hundred years in the future after our main character died. So quite a long time later. As you can see, several other people met the same fate in this world. Jason Scorn? Yep. Sure is. I was running this game for a different marathon, DSJ mod, and another runner of this game, Sharkcat87, who was actually on comms earlier for Callisto Protocol. He mentioned that nickname of the main character to me, because he was on comms for that, and I lost it, because that nickname is so good. Also, graphic content warning right here, because we're basically going to pull an umbilical cord out of her abdomen. So enjoy this. Enjoy this nice animation here. It's okay. It's out now. You can look back at the screen if you want to. Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, the crazy thing about it too, Goth, is I'm running this game on the lowest graphical settings, and it still looks beautiful. Like, actually, the year this game got released, 2022, it got nominated at the Game Awards for Best Art Direction, which is very well deserved, because Ebb Software did a good job with it. Like I said, it took them 8 years to finally release it after they first teased it back in like 2014, 2017, and it really shows. I call the first guy Scorn guy. You know, kind of like a Doom guy kind of thing for Doom. We'll just be taking a quick jog through the desert. Like I said, this is an indeterminate amount of time after our first character died. So we're trying to get back to that tower that we were at before where our first character died. But we have to take a quick run through the desert to get there. Such a nice effect too, like you run here and then the main tower you're going to gets gradually revealed in the distance, slowly appearing out of the fog. Such a cool effect. Yeah, H.R. Geiger, as graphic as it is with the gore, as you're definitely seeing, it's interesting. It's like a liminal space kind of art, in a way. That probably makes sense, but I feel like that's a fair comparison. Where it's like all this weird geometry and uncanny look, you know? Yeah, so I have the chat down on my phone, so that's why I'm looking down. Hey, Ace. By the way, Ace, running Outlast Trials with a few other people later tonight. Go ahead and watch that. I believe it's the first time, actually, the new trials that released for that game recently are going to be shown the full run in a marathon setting, so excited to see how that pans out. I also play Outlast Trials co-op with him occasionally, and he's pretty cool. Just putting that out there. Alright, oh, yeah. Yeah, the game can hitch sometimes, it just happens occasionally. Because, as you can kind of guess with how good the graphics look, the game is very, very intensive, even on really good computers. Like, I have a 3060, the 8GB version. An RTX 360 8GB version, paired with the Ryzen 5 5600X, which is a pretty beefy set of components there, considering that the recommended specs for this is an RTX 2070 for the graphics, but it still lags sometimes. I've tried to prevent it as best as I can, which is why I turned the graphics settings down so low. But it just happens sometimes because of how graphically intensive this game is. I think it might be because I'm running a timer in the background in addition to running this game and OBS. It's probably part of it. Alright, so you have a quick puzzle here. Now, the mechanic behind this one is to see these little notches. We have to line up our cursor, that you can see with that kind of screw on the outside of the ring. We have to line that up with the notch and then press down with left click. And once we get 3 notches, we can take that little white dot that's in the mechanism and insert it in our gun here. By the way, I've been calling these objects things like, you know, dot ring, because we have other names for some of these mechanisms, like this thing I have right here with the dots, but it's very much not Twitch safe, so I'm not going to say it here. Just leave it to your own imagination. I'll say that much. Alright, so the goal of Act 2-2, because that's the act we're in now, is we have to get basically this game's equivalent of a key card. I know I was talking about the bracelet. We will be getting that. But starting from here, we'll have to activate doors that have varying levels of security, with the highest being 5. And to actually get that key card sort of thing, we have to do 3 or 4 puzzles, like the puzzle I did at the start of the act with the 3 notches. And you have to hit them in a very specific order, or you have to get the notches at like very specific spots on the wheel. But I have those memorized because again I have those noted down to my left here in like a notepad document. So we should be okay there. Otherwise, it's a pretty straightforward act. There's also a mechanic where you use those little flesh-like tubes, because again, H.R. Geiger inspired game, to get around the different floors in this building. And I have the places to go there memorized and noted down as well. Also, there's our first character. Surprise, surprise. So because it's been so long since our main character died, or since our first main character died, I should say. Now that main character is turned into a parasite, and is going to possess our second main character here, basically leeching off of him for the rest of the game. And when I say leech off him, I mean that seriously, because starting from here, after that first encounter with him, we'll occasionally get some animations where that parasite damages us and slowly deteriorates our body. And each time he does that, he takes away 1 bar of health. And even with all the skipping we can do in the game now with non-DSJ, it's practically unavoidable having to heal off that damage with the health stations I was talking about at least once. It takes so much mandatory damage from the parasite over the rest of the game. So that's where a lot of the more precise routing comes into play, is tightly managing when you get your heals, and also when you use them after you get them from the heal stations. Because when you use the heals to get some health back, you do slow down a little bit. So you have to be mindful of that. But we won't really see that until the end of Act 2-2, because we don't even get a heal station for the first time until that point. So we'll get another bracelet, which some people in the community would like to nickname an Ezio blade, which is pretty cool. I just like to call it a bracelet because that's pretty much what it is. So we'll go with that. We just have to dip down there to get a bracelet, and then we'll go back up. We got our second dot, so we need 2 more. So we're going back to these fleshy tubes. We're going to go on the right tube this time. Quick left input. And then mash left click lightly to select that tube immediately. And we're on our way. Do another one of those puzzles with the notches. This time it's 2 left, 3 right, and 2 left for the positions of the notches. So 2 left, wait until the notch gets there. Right, and 1, 2, 3 right. And then 2 left. There we go. Like I said, we have all the puzzle solutions and everything, and the heals very precisely routed out. In fact, since you can't really skip much in non-DSJ, which is what I'm running here, little optimizations like that, and approaching things at an angle like I was talking about earlier, are like the name of the game with this category once you really get the route down. In fact, my PB is like a 120-30 right now, which is 3 minutes behind the record, and that's almost purely because of all the health stations I get for safety, because I get 3 health stations over the course of the run in total. So we got our third dot there. We'll go over and get our fourth in that hallway that we just opened up. Because there's a bunch of bodies blocking the way in that one tube. So we sprayed some acid there to get rid of them. I don't know if it's acid, actually, but I'm assuming it's acid. We got rid of those bodies there to create some room so we can get through. We'll do our last dot puzzle. This time it's one right, and then two right. They try and make it a little harder here by blocking off half of the puzzle, but since I have the inputs memorized, it's not that much of an issue. Just have to listen for an audio cue when the last notch is hit. There we go. All the notches, and we'll get our fourth dot. Alright, and then we'll go back down. So I'm going to take the left trunk to go back. We have a pretty lengthy puzzle with a lot of inputs for it. And actually get our key card to actually unlock the mechanism, or we can get our key card. So I have to concentrate a little bit for that, but it's not too difficult for the most part. Yeah, I think Sharkout was the person that came up with Jason Scorn, or that, or it was someone in his chat. Props to Sharkout in his chat for that one. Alright. So we've got all four dots. You can see all those pods come up. That's definitely not an allusion to anything. Like I said, inspired by H.R. Geiger's artwork. So there's a lot of those kinds of references. You can probably guess where I'm getting at with that. Yeah, we've got all four dots, and we have to do a quick puzzle here with coil. Okay, cool. So the inputs for that are 2 down, 1 left, 4 up, 1 left, 4 down, 1 left, 2 up, 1 left, 2 up. In that order. That'll get the rings in place to activate all 4 of those sensors in the mechanism. So we can get our key card here, which is this little staff-looking thing. Like I said, you gradually upgrade the key card with different security levels up to level 5 by the end of Act 5. And we need those to interact with doors, like this door we'll be using to exit Acts 2-2. In the DSJ mod run, there's actually a really crazy skip where you can go out of bounds, because again you have the ability to jump in that mod. You can go out of bounds and then hit an elevator that takes you directly to Act 3-1 coming up here. So instead of having to do all that gobbledygook, or got all those dots and got the key card, we don't have to do that at all in DSJ mod. Obviously we can't do that here though, since we can't jump, and we're pretty much locked within the invisible walls of the game for the most part. There's no real the ways to get out of bounds in vanilla Scorn are very limited. We're actually gonna see out of bounds in the next act though, and it was something that was found at the beginning of the year by a runner named Cubo. By the way, here's the first bit of parasite damage. It was found at the beginning of the year, I believe around February, by a runner named Cube03. It was kind of weird when he found that, because the elevator clip, which we'll see later in Acts 3-1 here, it kind of just came out of nowhere. Like, he found it, included it in his most recent PV, which is currently the world record. Didn't share it with anyone, and then just dropped it on the leaderboard moderators. And he was like, okay, yeah, here, have a big sequence break. I mean, like, okay, cool. Why didn't you tell us about it? You know? Definitely a bit of a black sheep in the community, but it's still very advantageous for runs, so we go ahead and do it. Yeah, we're pretty much out of Act 2-2 now. We just have to go on a bit of a walkway to get to an elevator. That'll take us to Act 3-1. And this is the elevator coming up that we would get to if we use Sequence Broke in DSJ mod. Oops. like something Trough would do, yeah. Pretty much. Alright, so this is the elevator we get to if we sequence broken and DS shame up. Of course, we're not doing that. So we'll just take this elevator down and we'll get to Acts 3-1. Now, Acts 3-1 is where the run really starts to get difficult. A little over half hour in. Nice, got pretty good gold. This is where the run actually starts to get difficult, because so far it's been, you know, pretty easy going. You had some puzzles to deal with and some minor optimizations to go along with it. But Act 3-1 is the first point in the game where we really have to deal with enemies. We had that parasite, obviously it's going to damage us throughout the rest of the game. This is the first act where we actually have to deal with enemies. And enemies in this game are brutal. We don't have very good guns at this point. We only have the puzzle gun right here, which not only has a very long recharge time, but it also has a pretty short range. And you can have it where you're trying to shoot at an enemy to like stun them so you can move past them and avoid getting damaged. And then they end up damaging you anyway because like your gun missed. So we have to be very careful with when and how we use it. Right there though, I don't use it. Because, little fun fact, when you interact with these pedestals, in that case it took a while, but that was for good reason. Because when you interact with one of these pedestals, whether it's to open doors like that or for puzzles, you get iframes if an enemy is about to attack you. And when you're interacting with a puzzle, generally the enemies ignore you as well. They just drop aggro. Which is very helpful for that dodging that enemy, which, again, game doesn't give you any names for. So I decided to call him a Slug. I also come across a smaller enemy in a little bit in this next hallway that I like to call a Chicken. We'll do a quick dodge with him. We'll take a bit of damage, but it's kind of expected. It's hard to dodge this shot right here. He almost always gets that first shot in. Thankfully, though, we get far enough away to avoid a second shot. That's going to be a running theme throughout the rest of this game from here, because since we have to deal with enemies now, we have to do some fairly tight movement to avoid these enemies. I do have extra heals just in case. As you can see there, I have 4 heals in reserve. I'm at 5 bars of health now. So a big point for the run from here is to be able to dodge enemies as much as you can. Because health is a very costly resource in terms of time and also having to go to a heal station to go out of your way slightly, basically, to get more heals. Speaking of damage, we're going to get, as soon as we move this, it's basically a tram here, tram car, we're going to get a bit of damage from the parasite, but there's actually a trick you can do to avoid this parasite damage. So once the parasite damages us, we'll bring our gun out, just like that. I'll put out its main menu, and then hit continue. By doing that, at the very end of the animation right there, where the parasite damages us, the 1 bar of health, we get an auto save so we can continue from there, without having to go back a little bit. But we also avoid the 1 bar of health that we were supposed to take there from the parasite does not register. So we can skip a little bit of damage there from the parasite, and it's pretty helpful. We don't really do that in runs, at least at the top level, just because it does waste a couple seconds to do that quit out. But for the sake of marathon safety, I'm going to go ahead and do that here, just so I can conserve health. Because like I said, health is a resource you have to very tightly manage in this. Also, I just want to point out real quick that the environment for Act 3-1 in particular looks so good. Same with Act 3-2 that we'll be doing after this. Because you can see all these, like, fleshy tendrils draped over the environment. Again, H.R. Geiger-inspired game. And it looks so nice. Like, obviously it's a little grotesque, but it looks so nice. It really does set the mood. Where's the part where when's the part where Scorn guy says it's scorning time and Scorn's all over the place? If it's a part I'm thinking of, then stay tuned. Because that's coming up in Act 5, where the most graphic part of the game is. But in practice, right now, because yeah, we're playing a little game called Scorn. All right. So the goal of Act 3-1. Yes, exactly. We are about to scorn. We are actively scorning because we are scorning right now. It's scorning time, if you didn't know. But yeah, the goal of Act 3-1 is similar to that one tram pod that we grabbed. We need to grab another tram in here in this building. Nice, we avoid a bit of damage from that slug. The whole point of this act is we're supposed to get an elevator pod, like that tram pod that we got earlier. We use that to get to an exit we're not able to get to at the moment, and go on to Act 3-2. And normally Act 3-2 is or Act 3-1, I should say. Normally Act 3-1 is pretty lengthy, because to get that elevator pod, you have to do a couple of really annoying puzzles. There's also a lot more enemies you have to deal with. Oh crap, I got slow animation. I was trying to kill that guy to avoid damage, and I messed it up anyway. But yeah, you're supposed to get an elevator pod by going between 3 different floors, and there's a lot more enemies you have to deal with, and a couple of really annoying puzzles. But Cubo 3, who I mentioned earlier, in his world record run, found earlier this year, I think around February, that if you do a specific set of force quitting, kind of like I did to avoid the parasite damage earlier, you can get out of bounds on this elevator off to my left. And like I said, there's a very specific set of button presses to do for that. So first we activate that mechanism, and then we quit out in the middle of the animation. Each force quit, or not really force quit, but quit the main menu that I'm doing here. Each quit the main menu I'm doing here advances the cycle of the elevator, which is why I'll be doing it quite a bit. Yeah, I'm doing this just so that the elevator moves faster, so I don't have to wait as long. Because normally the elevator would go through all 3 floors, and then eventually come back up to the top floor where we are. Step on this pressure plate in the middle of the elevator, and then quit out. That'll make it so that when we go up to the elevator in a second to actually do the out of bounds, that door will close without us having to be in the elevator. There we go. As soon as the elevator goes down, I'll do another quit out. There is a strat here after you clip out in the elevator, which we'll see shortly. There's a strat here once you clip out the elevator to run on some invisible geometry and get to this switch a little earlier, which was found earlier today by Lumi in chat. I'm actually not going to go for it because I have not practiced it, so I'm not comfortable doing it. But yeah, with that specific, oddly specific set of quit to main menus, we're able to get on top of the ball in the elevator, that little orb, and get out of bounds to the lower floor where we started the act. So that way we don't have to do any of the puzzles. I can just go straight to this mechanism where we grab the elevator orb. Now we're going to do a quick puzzle well, not really a puzzle, but a quick, yeah, basically a quick puzzle to get this orb to the top floor in Act 3. Because that's where all the tram mechanisms are that we can use to get out of here. So the orb's in its rightful place, and I'm going to move it over to the other side with this mechanism right here. Again, it's going to take a little bit because Scorn likes to be fancy with its animations. Now, what's nice about that too, for like say marathon safety's sake, is that by doing that elevator clip, we not only avoid the no puzzles, but also avoid having to deal with a lot more enemies than we would otherwise. Which makes health management a lot nicer. Because we don't have to go to as many heal stations or worry about dodging enemies as much. in here, and we'll use that same mechanism we used at the start of the act to get this orb in place. The orb's in place, and then we'll use this tram to get to the other side. And once we get out of here, that'll be the end of Acts 3-1. I'm gonna sneak in a heal here. I technically don't need to since my health is pretty good and I got a couple of nice dodges I think I missed in my PB. I'm gonna opt to heal there for safety, and it's a good time to do it anyway because you're stuck in the tram until it gets to the other side, so you have time to heal, so might as well take it. So again, we'll get some scripted damage from the parasite. Like I said, he takes 1 bar of damage each time he does this, which is why I healed there. I want to be sure I was topped up before I get into Act 3-2. Alright, cool. Alright, so we're in Act 3-2 now. We're pretty deep in the game, because after this we only have 2 acts left. Again, our only gun up to this point is this puzzle gun, as I like to call it. Although, again, if you're in the community, we have other names for it. You'll see Penetrator in action. Or, yeah, that's what it's called, the Penetrator in the community. I'll go ahead and use the Penetrator there to take out that chicken, just so he isn't in the way, because he's literally right in the way as you go through that hallway, so you have to take him out with the puzzle gun. But yeah, that's what we actually call it in the community, the Penetrator. We are mature adults. Only the most mature adults play this game, as you can tell. So we'll come across a new enemy here, in this hallway, right over there. It's a kind of a dog-like enemy. It walks on all fours. I like to call it Brute. And the special thing with the Brute is he's pretty slow compared to the chicken and the slug. But if he does notice you, he does a charge attack that does 2 bars of health. And depending on where he hits you in the level, especially in levels like this where there's tight corridors, he can basically stun lock you and drain your health really fast. So you have to be careful around the Brutes especially, because while they're slow, they're very menacing, for sure. The goal of Act 3-2 is to upgrade our bracelet. Because again, we'll unlock doors with varying levels of security. And right here, I believe we're going to get a 3-star upgrade for... or 3-dot upgrade, but I like to call it 3-star. A 3-star upgrade for our bracelet, or our key card. But there's a bunch of barriers we have to move, including this wheel that was blocking the way. And to actually get over to the room where we can upgrade the bracelet. So that's the point of this level. We just moved the bracelet, or barrier there. So we'll go back down. There's a slug that appears here, but he's pretty easy to dodge. I just like to juke to the right to avoid him. Cool. Alright. Go over here, we'll get our bracelet. So I mentioned earlier about how we barely get any guns in this run, because normally we'd also have, in addition to the puzzle gun, we also have a, basically what's this game's equivalent of a revolver at this point. But the place to get the revolver is in the area that we skipped by doing the out of bounds on the elevator. So we unfortunately can't use that gun. Well, later on in Act 4, we'll get a shotgun, which is one of the most powerful guns in the game. Not only because it hits hard and has a nice spread, but it also gets to be used for a pretty cool strat with a boss fight at the end of the game in Act 5. I know so far this game has been, like, you know, exploration heavy and like taking in the environment, but we actually get some pretty involved combat at the end with a boss fight, and it has multiple phases too. Each of them have their own unique strats, which is really cool. Actively scorning, yeah. We're gonna be actively scorning here because the parasite's gonna damage us. This is another instance of scripted parasite damage. I believe my health is pretty good, but I'm gonna go ahead and heal anyway. Again, to be safe. Heal in this elevator. It looks like I'm at 3 health, so I'll do two quick heals. Looks like we ran out of heals there, but that's okay. Because with my route for Act 4, I'll get another health station there. And there's another one we'll be getting as well in Act 5, just to make it extra safe. Because like with how brutal this game can be if you make a mistake or die somewhere, I'm absolutely terrified of being low in health and stuff like that, so I want to pull out all the stops to make the run as safe as I can. My strats are basically idiot-proofing the run to make sure nothing bad can happen, even if I screw up. But even the hardest trick in the run... Oh, I got a little caught in the brute there. Even the hardest trick in the run it actually isn't too hard or too brutal in terms of time loss, because there's like a checkpoint like 30 seconds behind it, so it's not so big of a deal. So yeah, it's we're out of Act 3 too. Got those dodges, which is pretty nice. But now I'll be going to what is probably the hardest part of the run. We've had some out of bounds, right? It was pretty minor. We skipped a little area. Act 4 though skips a pretty big chunk of exploration you have to do around here. It saves around a couple minutes. The point of Act 4, because that's the act we're in now, is we have to get 3 puzzle pillars, which we open the doors to by first activating the switch. We activate 3 puzzle pillars after activating 3 corresponding switches. And then we take this main character, or other new character here, which we like to call Bruce in the community. Or some other variation of it, but I like to call him Bruce. Also, game volume's a little loud right now, but we can deal with it. Well, it's not too bad. It's just when monsters like this one yell, it's pretty loud. But yeah, we're gonna activate 3 puzzle pillars to activate an elevator-like mechanism where Bruce will basically take us up to the surface. Also, that chicken there is like gigantic troll. Even when he's like way off screen, he's like already locked onto you and just takes away 2 bars of health because you have no time to move away. He's such a troll. I hate him. But yeah, I'll be doing that out of bounds I was talking about, because we'd have to do a lot of traversing in this area, including dodging some enemies, to get a 4-star upgrade for our keycard. We can actually, instead of doing that, platform very carefully on some invisible geometry and get in the room where the 4-star upgrade is while it's unloaded. And this part in particular is pretty hard. Okay. That one part there where I'm like climbing on that root, it can be pretty difficult because I can end up falling out of bounds even if it looks like I'm doing it exactly right. Also have to be kind of careful here to make sure I don't fall too early. There we go. So yeah, that's first try on the... Oh, I got a little stuck. Hello. There we go. Got stuck on some geometry there. But yeah, that's first try on the out of bounds. That's one of the hardest tricks in the game by far. Because the thing with out of bounds in this game, when you can go out of bounds like I did there in Act 3-1, is since this is not the DSJ mod, and this is just a vanilla Scorn game, you don't have any ways to recover if you do fall while you're navigating out of bounds. So if you do end up falling out of bounds when attempting one of these skips, in Act 4 especially, it is brutal. You lose a lot of time. In most of my practice runs, I actually ended up failing that trick at least once. So getting a first try there is pretty good. Alright, so we got another health refill. I'll grab this real quick before we activate the bridge to get our second puzzle pillar. And when I say puzzle pillar, I'm not even joking. Because the mechanism that we use to activate Bruce taking us up to the surface is we guide a ball through a maze. There's like 3 different versions of it. We have to switch between to guide the ball through. It's pretty involved, actually. Alright. Alright, so that's Bruce. Whenever we take out one of those bridges, it kind of damages him, so he just like looks at us, scorning us. Hey, look at that, I tied that in. Yeah, Bruce just does that animation every time we bring out one of those bridges. Bruce is honestly one of my favorite non-player characters / enemies. in the game, I think. Just because the scenery in Act 4 is so cool. And, you know, it's some pretty good lines, even though the lines are just all... that kind of thing. Yeah, we activated the second puzzle pillar. We'll be walking down to the lower floor, navigating some elevators, to get our third puzzle pillar. But we'll get some scripted parasite damage in the meantime. There is a way to skip this, technically, which again was found by Cubo, I believe. Kind of like the parasite damage skip in Acts 3-1. But with the route that we do now, where we go out of bounds so much in this act, it's not possible to do that. The parasite damage skip on that spot in particular just does not work. And look at that, we finally have our second gun. This is the shotgun I was talking about. You get to have 3 bullets in the chamber, with 6 in reserve. So we'll get a quick refill here to start up with. We don't need a shotgun right now. We don't really need it until the boss fight I mentioned earlier in Act 5. It's nice to get it now, so that we have the ammo for later. Kind of similar to using health, or a health refill. Reloading the gun takes time because it makes you move slower as well, so I'll go ahead and reload here after I activate the elevator, just to save time. Yeah, he is definitely scorning. He's scorning, we're scorning, everyone's scorning in this household. Yeah, I took the elevator up to get to this floor, because this is where the activation for the puzzle pillar actually is. A lot of winding floors in this area. That's what makes it kind of hard to traverse. Like, if you weren't stuck by the puzzle in the Act 1-1 earlier with all those pods that you had to move around, this is definitely a point where you get completely stuck and look up a guide. Because when you're playing this blind, this area is so hard to go play through. Because you get lost very often trying to just find where to go. Also, we're going to see Bruce scorn us again. Alright. So we've activated that bridge so we can get to the third puzzle pillar, so we'll take the elevator down. There are some roots and some chickens and slugs, all 3. They'll appear here in this hallway, but don't have to worry about them too much, as long as we just go through here fast. So you saw there's a couple of brutes there, crowding around the entrance to the bridge, but if we just go quickly enough, they won't charge at us. And it lines up the cycles well, just ignoring them right there, because the path is open for us right here to get to this elevator, to go up to the next floor. There's that chicken there that's going to get some damage on us, but that's fine. We have plenty of heals, so we can just go ahead and use those. Okay. I thought I saw for a second that the chicken was spitting out at us, and I got kind of worried. I was worried it was going to hit me again and do another bar of damage, but I think it just barely missed. I saw, like, his spittle coming out above me, but it didn't quite hit me there. Alright, so we have the puzzle I was alluding to. Just moving puzzle through this maze. Simple as that. So I should memorize, so I'll just flip it occasionally. And move the dot through the maze. Flip it 2 more times. Here we go. Should I put the dot on that orange dot? The right dot on the orange dot at the end of the maze. And I'll make Bruce access an elevator and take us to the surface. We're gonna have a bit of an unfortunate moment here, because us using Bruce as a bridge here, it takes a bit of a toll, or as an elevator. Us using him as an elevator, it takes a bit of a toll on Bruce. So, in a minute here. There we go. So yeah, rest in peace, Bruce. You did as well. 07's in chat for Bruce. gone in the game, but not in our hearts. But yeah, we take Bruce there to get up to the surface. Because we're going to take this tram that's up above right there on a railway. Which we're going to use to go to Act 5. And you'll see these roots taking root, or tendrils taking root on my arms. There we go. That's the kind of showcase of how far the parasite has damaged us and basically taken over our body, because it is a parasite after all. So our goal in Act 5 is basically going to be finding a way to get rid of this parasite and get to a higher plane of existence, like our first character was aiming to do. So that's the end of Act 4, but we do have a bit of a tram ride while we wait. So you get to see some nice scenery here. I do have to take a minor break while this tram ride is going because I need to get some food. So Goth, or the host, if you have anything you want to plug while I go get food real quick, go right ahead.
All right. Well, that was a bit unexpected. So I guess I'll just talk about some of the sponsors we have for this event. You can see them down at the bottom there. We got Turbo Board. They've been super great to us. You know, over I guess the past like couple of years, really. They've been hosting most of our like competition.
I think I lost you for a second.
So you know, any music you've been hearing in the intermission screens, they've been showing. And then Mutagen Interactive, it's one of our members. It's their like dev studio. They've been making some indie horror games. You know, you can go check them out.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Alright, so I'm back. Acquired pizza, by the way. Now we're in Act 5. I did that checkpoint reload right there as soon as the act started. Because occasionally my runs I come across bugs where the game just completely locks up, like a soft lock. And we do not know at all why those happen. It's basically only ever happened to me, so I'm very scared of it happening again. So I just go ahead and do a quick checkpoint reload there to save time. Or not to save time, but to avoid those soft locks, because it seems to help with that. Might just be placebo, because I've actually done a run without that, and the bugs didn't happen, or the soft locks didn't happen, but better safe than sorry. So yeah, like I said with Act 5, the whole point is to heal ourselves up, get rid of the parasite, and try to get to a higher plane of existence. That's basically what's happening here. You'll see when we get to the end. And to do that, we have to power up these two, basically, clones. With life essence is the only way I can describe it. Yes, we are basically going to crush babies for blood to power up these clones. And that's what I meant with this game getting graphic, because the game shows the babies getting crushed in detail. It's these things you see in these canisters. That's what we're going to crush for our life source. I wish I was lying, but that's actually what happens. Like I said, it's a H.R. Geiger-inspired game, as I've already said a few times. So it's definitely a bit graphic and a tad bit sexual. In fact, actually, in the beginning area at the start of Act 5, when I was like walking up to, I believe Polis is what this is actually called in the game files. There's actually some statues of some people in this civilization or this world doing sexual acts. Because this is like the place in this world, I guess, where new people or babies are made. And like something happened where all the females in this world disappeared, I guess because of all biomechanical stuff going on. And so they found a way to impregnate males. It's as weird as it sounds. That's why you might have seen with the clones that there's these like red bulges where their belly should be. That's basically the incubator for the new people. That the people at the polis here are birthing. That's also pretty much what the canisters were that we put in that. I guess it's an incubator. I'll call it. I don't know. Like I said, the enemies and stuff in this game don't get names. So we got that first clone activated, but now we need to activate the clone a second time, which we'll do by getting 2 more of those canisters, or actually 3 more of those canisters. Yeah, 2 more, actually, because we just got the second one. And this is the first point where we actually have to fight this incubator. And like I said, each phase has a unique strat to it. With this one, what we have to do is damage it enough so that these, like, pockets of flesh pop out from either side. We have to hit each of those pockets twice. What I'll do here is I'll do 2 shots with the shotgun, and then once those 2 shots pop off, I'll hit the pockets on the side with the puzzle gun. We'll do a quick shot there. I have to pace out the shots a little bit with the shotgun, because when you do a hit on the shotgun, or do a hit on him, either with the shotgun or the puzzle gun, there's a bit of iframes while he's recovering. So you have to wait a little bit, wait until he starts charging up attacks again, like that. You can see him rearing back to do a punch. You wait until he does that, starts to do that again, then you shoot him again with the shotgun. And now him in the pocket, but with the pocket of flesh, or pocket of blood with the puzzle gun. I'll reload the shotgun over here, then come back and shoot him again. I'll just rinse and repeat this a couple more times. So I hit him 2 times there. Put this pocket of organic matter in his side. I'll switch over. I meant to switch over to the shotgun, but that's fine. So I'll do it now. I'll reload. And with the shotgun there. He's dead there because we hit both pockets twice. I'll go over here for a quick reload and also get a health refill because there's a health station here too. I usually sneak this in here in runs because he takes a while to actually die once you get rid of the second pocket of organic matter. So we can just take our time to refill on ammo and health. Grab this. Try to grab this grenade because we need it to do a puzzle later on. I was a little slow in reloading, but that's fine. Oh, I'll grab this grenade launcher because we need it. Need it for a puzzle later on. Several puzzles actually. But the incubator is going to try to defend itself again. So we have to do a couple shots to the canister in its belly. And there's we can get something here called a God Cycle. We'll see if we get it. Okay, we got it. So what I was referring to with God Cycle is, you saw how when he's about to like rear up to attack you, he occasionally opens up his stomach. Whether or not he does that after the first time is random. And if you get it immediately after the first one, or after the first time he opens up his stomach, we like to call that God Cycle, because that's the absolute fastest kill you can get on that guy. And we just so happened to get it there. So that's very nice time save. Past this point, actually, there's not too much randomness, really, in terms of, you know, time loss or time gain. So once you're able to get past this boss fight, you pretty much know if you have a PB or not. Even though it's like 12 minutes before the run actually ends. And I don't think this particular run will PB, although I'll go ahead and spoil it right now. It's actually pretty dang close. So we get to see another baby smoothie. Just need one more baby capsule there, so I'll go back to get another one. We'll get some more parasite damage though. There is one puzzle we'll be doing after this last phase of the boss fight, when I get this last canister, where we will take a lot of damage from the parasite. So that's why I got all the backup heals I did, because I'm going to need a lot of health, basically full health, to survive the last area of the game. Moral of the story, it's okay to kill fetuses, as long as it's for progress. Yeah, I'm not joking, by the way, it's what we actually do in this game. You even saw it there when I was going up to the mechanism. Yeah, for this last phase, we actually don't use any of our other guns. We don't even use the shotgun, actually. We exclusively use the grenade launcher, because that's the only weapon we can equip at this point, with how much the parasite has taken us over. And for what's RNG about this phase is, you see how this incubator is shooting grenades? It's random. The amount of times he shoots the grenade launcher is random. He can do it. The ideal thing is he only does it like 3 times total. And then he goes back to recharge his ammo. In that case, he's going to recharge, so we can go ahead and shoot him once he starts to crouch down to reload. There we go. So as soon as his back there lights up red, you can shoot the grenade in there, and I'll go ahead and kill him. And do 2 quick heals here. So ideally want to be at full health for this last puzzle. It's like I said, we're taking a lot of burst damage. Because, again, like I said, the point of this act, or at least one of the things we want to do in this act, is remove the parasite that's been damaging us over the course of the game, right? Well, the puzzles get to that mechanism where you remove the parasite, is you have to go back and forth between a bunch of different points to eventually unlock the room where you remove the parasite. In order to interact with anything in the puzzle, you have to temporarily disable the parasite's ability to take you over. Because once the parasite, in this state where the parasite has covered most of our body, we can't interact with anything. Not even the gates that we use with or interact with the keycard. So we have to use this mechanism to temporarily stop the parasite from damaging us. And each time we do that, it takes away a half bar of health. And after that, periodically damages us bit by bit, just a little bit, until the parasite takes over again, and then we have to repeat the process. Whoops, didn't need to pause that. Just looking through my notes real quick. I was just scrolling through my notes real quick, that's what that was. Baby puree, exactly. Yes, this is the mechanism that we use to stop the parasite. So we'll clamp our arm down, and we'll use these spikes to damage the parasite. And there's again a specific order we have to do this in order to maximize the amount of time we have before the parasite takes over. So I'm going to go to the right here first, use our keycard to open this gate. Wait until the parasite takes over, because if the parasite takes over while we're on that pressure plate, the cycles of these things that move on the ceiling, these carts, they end up in the wrong spot. So I just do that to make sure the cycles line up optimally. So go ahead and shoot a grenade there. That disables this mechanism, destroys it even, which opens up that gate so we can get our 5-star upgrade for the key card. We stop the parasite again, or damage it, so that we can go over and get the upgrade. There we go, got just in time. I actually had plenty of time there before the parasite took over again, but it always feels like such a short amount of time, so you end up like panicking trying to get to where you want to go. And good luck doing this puzzle if you're playing this game blind, because like I said, the game is very brutal and basically damages you for every action you take. You have to be very mindful of your health here, and if you're like low on health pickups or you have none, you're basically soft locked. I think that actually in more recent patches, including the current patch that I'm playing on, they're a lot more generous with the health stations, which is good, but even then it's still kind of brutal. So there's the door to the parasite removal room. We'll go ahead and open that with our 5-star key. And I'll stop the parasite, or stun as I like to say, one last time. So I can actually get to the machine to remove the parasite. And I will give another graphic content warning once we get to that room, because the parasite will damage us one last time, and it'll damage us pretty bad, to the point where you'll see Scorn guy, or Jason Scorn's insides. So just be wary of that when we go in this next room. So we'll go up to this machine, just in time, before the parasite takes over again. And we'll interact with this machine to remove the parasite, finally, after this whole time. And there's a side effect that can happen here, where I'm just not able to move the cursor and I'm completely stuck. We did not get that here, so we're good. So we just have to aim the cursor for the machine, or aim the claw of the machine at the parasite's head. That'll remove it off our body so we can actually move, finally. We're still not done quite yet, though, because again, one of our other goals with this act is to get to a higher plane of existence. Basically, Nirvana is one way of thinking about it. So we have to haul our way over to that main area we were just in to actually do that. So I have a theory actually for a pretty big skip in this area, if it ever ends up being possible. Because the only actual thing you have to do to trigger this end section is to get in that chair where you remove the parasite. Because if you get there without having done anything else, the game assumes, oh, you've done the boss fight and you've completed the baby puree. Continue on with the game, friends. So theoretically, if we could skip down there somehow with like an out of bounds, that would save nearly 10 minutes. No joke. But again, with how limited the mechanisms are for going out of bounds in vanilla Scorn, we're not able to do that at the moment, sadly. Parasite the type to clap when the plane lands, pretty much. So I'll be hobbling our way over to this machine that we've been activating the clones for. I'll put this life force in to activate the second clone. Take a little shortcut there by going over that rubble. Saves a bit of time. Yep, they sure are. There they are. Like I said, this game gets pretty gruesome, because we saw baby puree, we saw our intestines come out. And we're going to have what I can only describe as this game's equivalent of a heavily botched 1800 surgery. Looking down there because of the statues. We're going to have what I can only describe as the game's equivalent of a botched 1800 surgery. Because we're going to get our body hooked up to a machine by that little surgeon bot in the distance, that guy that's hanging out on the platform. Because we'll hook up our brain in a pretty gruesome scene to actually hook us up to that higher plane of existence. And then we'll possess those two clones in a pretty lengthy puzzle to bring our Scorn guy, or Jason Scorn, to the end. I will note, again, graphic content warning, we're going to see a pretty gruesome scene where a buzzsaw is used to cleave into our head, and you'll even see like part of our scalp being taken off by the surgery bot here. And it's a pretty lengthy and drawn out scene as well, where they show everything in detail. So if you're really, really squeamish, and I mean this seriously, be sure to look away for the next few minutes. So starting now, look away from the screen if you're squeamish. So yeah, we'll put ourselves on the operating table. Get ourselves strapped in. Yes, that's exactly what it looks like. I'm not going to comment on that. And now that we're hooked up to the machine, that surgery bot that I was talking about, there he is. He's going to slide into view. And first thing he's going to do is he's going to do a makeover on our abdomen where intestines are hanging out. And yes, it actually shows all of this. I'm kind of desensitized to it now, but when I first played this game back when the game launched a bit over a year ago in October 2022, I was very uncomfortable watching this. I actually freaking cringed seeing this for the first time. So yeah, now we're hooked up to Nirvana, the higher plane of existence I was talking about. Now our consciousness gets transferred to the 2 clones that we activated earlier by getting the lifeblood out of those capsules from the boss fight. And there's kind of 2 parts to this, because we have to basically operate these 2 clones to do separate things in this puzzle. It's a pretty simple puzzle, but it can be a little confusing when you first play this. Man, I can't wait to let my 11-year-old play this. He might get scarred. I would not advise. We'll do one last puzzle where we have to control these 2 clones I've already talked about ad nauseum. For this first one, or with this first clone, we'll go over and grab this bracelet, very similar to the one we got as Jason Scorn. There we go. Scorn for life? Yep, that's another way of wording it. So we'll get that bracelet there, because we need to activate this mechanism. There's 2 different mechanisms we need to activate. Let's open this door. So we activate that first one there with the first clone, and then we'll grab Jason's Scorn to activate a pressure plate as we carry him to the end, which will let us go on a runway that leads to the end of the game. And it won't be for about a minute and a half, 2 minutes here, but just give warning in advance. Time ends when I lose control when I carry Scorn guy on the runway. Is this clone pregnant? He sure is. Like I said, biomechanical stuff gone wrong. Females in this world were eradicated, so the people in this universe found a way to impregnate men, and it went about as well as you think. Because I don't think male biology works like that. So we'll carry him over this pressure plate. We move pretty slow with this guy, and he turns like a tank, but it's manageable. I wouldn't count on that, Diggity. Alright, so we've activated both mechanisms, now the door is opened. Take a quick victory lap to the end of the game. That little light you see in the distance, that's the higher plane I'm trying to get to. And again, time ends when I lose control. Got a neat hat? Thank you. It's a little uncomfortable, though. So time will end in a little bit here. Just gotta move it along. Time. That's the 121 as well. I was not expecting it to be that close. Cool. That's Scorn in all its glory. Barely anything skipped except for a couple instances. So yeah, there you go. So it was 121 in-game time because we use local rule for this game. What was the time in real time?
It was Yeah, that was a really good run.
Yeah.
That was the first time I've actually watched that one fully. You know, it was a
Like
good
a
watch.
full Scorn run.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
All right, so we'll take a little bit of an intermission here, and then we're gonna come back with Nerd again. He's gonna be playing Slender.
Mhm.